of these 11 paths in the description, so you can just watch it. Now let's begin. So in this sixth topic, the first one what we have is the news with regarding to agricultural reforms. So this agricultural reforms, the farm bills, it has become a major controversy. So it is very important for us to know what are these bills and what are their important provisions for this exam. ठीक है? Now we'll look at it. The government passed three acts: the Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Act of 2020, the Farmers Empowerment and Protection Agreement on the Price Assurance and Farm Services Act of 2020, and Essential Commodities Act of 2020. So these three bills were passed, and there is a lot of hue and cry which we have been witnessing from some part of farmers, you can say. Okay, so now actually why these reforms are brought in by the government? It is because if you see farming in itself, it has become non-remunerative for a lot of people, and people have been migrating from farming, from agriculture to other areas. But agriculture, as you know, it's very important thing. So here some stats about agriculture we have. Yeah, so agriculture, if you see, it is the largest livelihood provider in India, and about 70% of the rural household depend primarily on the agriculture. So agriculture becoming remunerative and doubling farmers' income is something what the government is trying to focus on, because this is only going to develop the rural part of the country and bring people out of the poverty. And also agriculture provides the world's seventh largest, or you can say 7% of agricultural output. So 7% of agricultural output is from India itself, which is a pretty good thing, which is a pretty big thing in fact. And Indian agricultural exports account for 2.15% of world's agricultural trade, which is not a large extent, but yeah, compared to that of small countries, it's a pretty good one. And 82% of farmers are small and marginal. This is one of the major issue, because the small and marginal farmers do not have the large capacity to expand or use various new type of techniques which can enhance their production. And also the mechanization is very difficult when we consider small and marginal farmers. So that's the reason 82% of farmers being small and marginal is a pretty big issue. And also the most important thing, if you see in agriculture, about 44% of Indians they work in agriculture, but agriculture contributes about 18% to the GDP, which is a very less thing. 44% contributing 18%, but if you see service sector, about 30% are employed, but it contributes 55% to the GDP. So that's the difference we are talking about. So that's the thing with agriculture. A lot of people are involved with, but very less remuneration, right? Now we'll start with these three farm bills. Yeah, one more important thing which it was given is the issues with APMC. So issues with the APMC is one of the main reason for introduction of these farm bills. Now what are the issues with APMCs, we will see. So if you see, cartelization and the reduced competition is one of the main issue. The middlemen who are there in the APMC mandis, they are getting cartelized, they are coming together and they are impacting the auctions. And because of this, what is happening is the prices are being manipulated. And the farmer is getting very less price. The problem is that the farmer who is the owner of the crop, he is getting very less price. And the consumer, it is we are purchasing them at a very high price. The farmer who is producers is getting very less, and we, the consumers who are consuming, are paying very high. Then where is this middle money going? This money in the middle is going to the middlemen, and these middlemen are causing major trouble in the APMC mandis. Okay, and another important reason is that the APMC mandis, if you see, the good quality infrastructure and good procurement is available only in few states. When we talk about the APMC mandis in states like UP, etc., UP, Bihar, etc., they are not much efficient. Farmers from UP go to Haryana or Punjab. From UP, they go to Haryana or Punjab in order to sell their produce. This is the state of APMC in some states. Okay? And also, there is a lot of corruption in the APMC mandis, and there is high wastage in the supply chain. And also, if you see, there are very high market charges in the APMC mandis, and because of this also the farmers are getting less money. And also these acts, or the APMC acts, they are highly restrictive and multiple channels of marketing. It actually is not benefiting farmer. It is not benefiting farmer. The farmers are getting exploited in fact. ठीक है. So that is the reason, because of these issues with the APMC mandis, the government thought that the farm bills is going to make a change in the overall agricultural marketing in the country. Now we'll see the each of the farm bill in detail. ठीक है. First one is the Farm Produce Trade and Commerce Facilitation Act. So this act intends to, the main intention is to ensure that farmers will be now able to sell their produce anywhere in the country, anywhere. Till now, farmers should be selling their produce only in the APMC mandis, and along with the ENAM, they ensured that they can sell it any APMC. But now, with this bill, the farmers will be able to sell anywhere, even outside of the APMC mandis. This give more freedom to the farmer. Farmer has now more informed choice about where to sell their produce, so that they can get good price. So, what are the key features of this bill? If you see, so this act, this Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Act, allows intrastate and interstate trade of farmers, okay, and they can sell their produce outside the physical APMC mandis, the physical mandis, and also outside the ENAM. And also they can sell their produce outside markets notified under the APMC Act. That means the farmers are now not bound by the APMC Act. The farmers can sell their produce anywhere in the country. And also this act permits electronic trading of scheduled farmer agricultural produce in some specific trade areas. And these electronic platforms, they are set up for direct purchasing and selling of the produce. Here all the producers, like the farmers, the farmer producer organizations, the cooperative societies, they can come together, and the buyers, like the big MNCs and all, or these big people, the big middlemen, you can say, they can directly come and purchase the produce directly from the market, directly from the farmers through these electronic trading platforms. And these platforms, these electronic trading platforms, they are set up by the companies and partnership firms or registered societies with PAN and IT and under the IT Act of 1961. Okay, and also these electronic trading platforms, they can be set by the farmer producer organizations or agricultural cooperatives as well. And another important feature of this act is the market fee is abolished in the electronic trading, basically, because normally the important downfall, or you can say the major drawback in the APMC, is that the APMC are charging high market fees, because in order to maintain the APMC markets, they need some money. So for that only, the farmer, or you can say these APMCs, they charge very high amount from the farmers, and this is actually further impacting the farmers, because already they are getting very less price, and with these charges they are losing much more. So that's why in the electronic trading, the farmers will not have, or there is no need for the farmers to pay any market fee. Okay? So this act prohibits state governments from levying market fee or cess on the farmer, trader or electronic trading platform for the trade of farmers produce conducted in the outside trade area. That means any selling or purchasing which is taken outside the APMC, the state government should not charge any market fee, right? Now the second act, the Farmer Empowerment and Protection Agreement on Price Assurance and the Farm Service Act 2020. In simple words, this is an act with regard to contract farming. This is an act with regard to contract farming, right? So now what is contract farming? So contract farming means two parties, that means the buyer and the seller, they come together. The buyer and the seller coming together and they doing business by signing a contract is nothing but contract farming. Here the farmer will have that assurance that the crop will be purchased by a genuine buyer, because there is a written contract between them. And also the buyer also, they also can ensure, they also can ask the farmer to make them grow, or these buyers can make the farmers grow a specific type of crop which they need for their products. With this, all these things can happen with the help of this contract farming. So legalizing this contract farming is pretty good thing what the government has done. If you see this act at large, so there is an agreement which is being talked about, and the agreement is between the farmer and the buyer, and the minimum period of agreement is one crop season and the maximum is 5 years. Okay, so at least for one crop season this agreement has to be valid, otherwise this cannot be signed. And also pricing of farmer produce should be mentioned in the agreement. What at what price the buyer is going to buy this produce. All these things have to be mentioned. For price subjected to variation, guaranteed price for the produce and additional amount above the guaranteed price should be in the contract. That means, for example, let's take tomatoes. If the price of tomatoes or onions, if you see, they will vary greatly in the market. So now, prior to the season, the farmer has signed a contract with an MNC, for example, Reliance Fresh. They signed an agreement stating that the Reliance will purchase onions at rupees 10 per kg. This is the agreement. But if you see in the market, the price is 50 rupees per kg. Here then the farmer is going to lose a lot. So that's why in these contracts they will be signed in such a way that minimum of 10 rupees will be paid by the company, and above 10 rupees will depend on the market price, how much they will pay and everything. So all these details have to be mentioned in the contract itself. And also the process of price determination, how this extra price will be determined, everything has to be mentioned. Okay? So now there is another issue, because these MNCs, if you see, they are very big companies, so there is a chance that the farmers might get exploited. So that is the reason, in order to ensure the farmers don't get exploited, we have these dispute settlement bodies called the conciliation boards, and there is a conciliation process for this. The board must have fair and balanced representation of the parties, and they have to give their verdict in 30 days. If they did not give their verdict if the issue is not solved in 30 days, then the parties can approach to the subdivisional magistrate for resolution. After the subdivisional magistrate, then the appeal can go to the district collector, who will give his final judgment. Okay? So all these things are part of this Farmer Empowerment and Protection Agreement on Price Assurance and Farmer Service Act of 2020. Okay? So this is the second bill. Now the third bill, if you see, it's with regard to essential commodities, the Essential Commodity Act of 2020. So normally we have this Essential Commodity Act earlier, under which the government can declare any crop essential commodity. And with this, by declaring any crop as essential commodity, the government can ban hoarding of any of this crop. For example, the government has declared onion as an essential commodity. Without any reason, the government, let's say the government declared, then the private players, they cannot save onions. They cannot have a stock of onions in their godowns. If they have the stock, then their godown will be seized. So there are very stringent measures, because of which the private companies were not able to do proper business. They were not able to do proper business, and also this is leading to a lot of inefficiencies in the system. So in order to remove these things, the government has introduced this Essential Commodities Act. Under this, the regulation of food items, if you see, the central government will do this regulation only under certain extraordinary circumstances. This will not be done under normal circumstances. Only under extraordinary circumstances like war, famine, or extraordinary price rise and natural calamity of grave nature, only under these conditions. But here there is another thing. Now what does extraordinary price rise means? The extraordinary price rise means, for example, let's take a horticulture crop. If the horticulture crop increases by 100%, then इसको बोलते हैं extraordinary price rise. But if you talk about any food crop, if there is 50% increase in the retail price of food crop, then this can be called as extraordinary price rise, and the previous 12-month average is considered for the price rise. Previous 12-month average or last 5-year average, it is considered for the base price for the comparison, right? And as I told already, we earlier had this Essential Commodity Act of 1955, and this empowered center to designate any crop as essential commodity like food, fertilizer and petroleum products, so that they cannot be hoarded or they cannot be saved by the private players. And actually this was done to ensure that hoarding is not done by the big players. Okay? So the central will be able to regulate the production, supply and everything. It will be done. The center will be doing under this Essential Commodity Act. Okay? So that's about these 3 farm bills, important things what we have to know. Now let's move on to the next topic. The next topic is MSP and the procurement. So with the introduction of these farm bills, there is a great hue and cry in the system we have seen, all because of the fake news. There is a news that the central government will be abolishing MSP and all. This is a false one, because if you see, there is no talk with regard to MSP by the government in any of the bill. Okay, that is the first thing. And second thing, the MSP which the government is giving is not based on any legislation. So that's one of the major reason for the false apprehensions among the farmer community. Okay? So the central government made it clear that the central government is not going to take any decision with regard to MSP, and it will continue as it is. So if you see the procurement regime in India, the central government procurement plays a major role. The central government announces the MSP, the minimum support price, for 23 crops. 14 are Kharif, 7 are Rabi, and 2 calendar year crops. And the central government declares this to ensure that the farmer get minimum price for their produce. And also the government notifies fair and remunerative prices for sugarcane and jute. Okay? And also if you see the crops, here I have given the Kharif crop and Rabi crop. What are the crops for which MSP is announced? So it is there here. You can just pause and go through it, because there is a less chance that there will be a question from these, because there is already a question in the previous year from this. So direct question, there is a very less chance, but it is very important for us to know the other aspects, because a question might come based on the other things. Okay? And here one thing what you have to notice, that there is no commercial crop because which is given an MSP. Only the food crops and these crops are given, but commercial crops are not given MSP. Commercial crops like coffee, tea, or something like that. Okay? Right. So now, how the price is determined for the MSP? The MSP price is generally determined by the CACP, the Commission for the Agricultural Cost and Prices. This commission, which is an independent body, will recommend the prices to the central government, and the central government will announce the MSP. The CACP is an independent body, and it considers a lot of factors. Now, what are the factors that it considers? So generally there are three prices: A2, A2 plus FL, and C2. A2 means the actual input cost for the produce. If the farmer is growing anything, what is the total input cost? This is called A2. A2 plus FL means, normally in rural areas what will happen is, in a specific land, the farmer along with his wife and children. So all the four, let's say a family of 4, okay, 2 children. So all these 4, they will be working for this produce. All the 4 will be working. Now, if the government consider only A2, that means only the cost, only the input cost, then what about the labor of the wife and children along with the farmer? This labor is not considered, right? So for this to be considered, there is another price which is introduced, which is the A2 plus FL. There is another price called C2. Now what is C2? C2 is the comprehensive cost along with A2 plus FL, the comprehensive cost including the rent of the land. For example, even though this land is a own land of the farmer, but they are certainly losing some interest, or you can say they are losing some rent if they are growing a crop. Then this rent which they are losing, which the potential rent which they are losing, also if it is included in the cost, then the whole cost is called C2. Okay? So now currently the government uses A2 as costing method. So there is a demand for considering C2 as costing method, because the C2 is a completely it's a holistic method, or you can say it considers holistically all the variables. Okay? And currently if you see the procurement regime, we have 3 different kinds of procurements: the price support scheme, the market intervention scheme, and the price stabilization fund. So the government has launched a scheme called PM Asha. Under this PM Asha, Pradhan Mantri Annadata Aay Samrakshan Yojana, under this only we have these 3 procurement mechanisms. The first one is the price support scheme, where the physical procurement of pulses, oilseeds, copra is done by the central government directly. Like for example, FCI, the Food Corporation of India, which will procure the food grains directly. So this is called the price support scheme, where the central government is procuring all the food items separately, and they're paying directly to the farmers. This is the first one. Second one is the price deficiency payment system. So here the market forces also will play an important role. For example, there is a farmer who is growing rice. Now this rice grown by the farmer, he will go and sell in the market, or he will go and sell in the APMC only. Okay, so there will be an auction in APMC, and in that auction he will sell. Let's say he got rupees 700 per quintal. Okay, for example, 700 per quintal, but the MSP is 900 per quintal. There is this gap of 200 rupees. So this deficiency of 200 rupees will be given by the government. This is called the price deficiency payment system scheme. Next one what you have is there is a pilot project of private procurement of stockist scheme. That means the private player will be directly involved in procurement of agricultural produce from the farmers. This is called the private procurement. Okay, so this is launched in as a pilot project in only few selected districts. Okay, right. So next one, there is this news about the minor forest produce. Now, what are minor forest produce? What is this? The minor forest produce, if you see, this is nothing but the forest produce which is grown by the, or you can say which is found in the forest, and which is a major income source for the people living in forest. Okay, this is called the minor forest produce. So there is a mechanism for marketing of this minor forest produce, and this is also announced by the government only. Okay, so this is introduced by the government actually in 2013, and it's a centrally sponsored project. Under this, various crops are involved, like bamboo, the dry apple, the cashew kernels, etc. And the objective of this overall scheme is to ensure that even the farmers, or you can say even the collectors of the forest produce, even they also get proper price for their for the work they are doing. Okay, so the objective is to ensure the fair price is given to the MFP gatherers, and also ensure sustainable harvesting of MFPs, and also have huge social dividend of MFP gatherers, majority of whom are tribals. So as the MFP is being given, the tribals have a chance to enhance their lifestyle and to come out of the poverty. So the MSP is determined based on the collection cost, cleaning cost, and primary processing like packaging and transportation. And it has provisions with regard to the bridging of last mile connectivity and markets by activating Hath Bazaars and strengthening grassroots level infrastructure for MFP procurement, storage, and marketing, etc. And for marketing of the products, Vandan Vikas Karyakram was launched by the government in 2018. Vandan Vikas Karyakram. So under this, all the MFP products, they are being marketed, and the nodal implementation agency is the TriFed. So TriFed is the nodal implementation agency. Right. So the next topic what we have is the agricultural marketing. So agricultural marketing, if you see, the first thing what we have is ENAM. So ENAM is nothing but interlinking of mandis. So the APMC mandis which we have talked about already, they actually belong to the states. They are established by state acts only. Now initially how it used to be, the farmer has to sell his produce only in the state APMC. But now with the introduction of this ENAM and with the integration of all the APMCs of different states, now the farmer will be able to sell his produce in any APMC electronically. This is called ENAM. Okay, so currently ENAM has reached 962. The total linked mandis have reached 962, and it's a pan-India electronic trading portal. Okay, and this is implemented by the SFAC, the Small Farmer Agri Business Consortium, which is under the Ministry of Agriculture. This is the implementation agency, and this ENAM was introduced in April 2016, but the progress is a bit slow, which is actually not helping farmers to that extent, right? And also the central government has introduced some new features like trading modules, warehouse based trading, and logistic module offer trackable transportation facilities. So all of these various new facilities are announced by the ENAM, right? So next one you have is the E-Kisan Mandi. So E-Kisan Mandi recently became operational in Pune, and this is an initiative of the NAFED, the National Agricultural Cooperative Marketing Federation of India Limited. So this NAFED actually it has initiated this E-Kisan Mandi. So E-Kisan Mandi it's an electronic trading portal. It's an electronic trading portal where the farmers, the agri producers, the traders, and the small buyers, they have come together for the agricultural trading. So it operates in the hub and spoke model, where NAFED owned land operates as hub for the farmer producing cooperatives in that area, right? So this is all about the E-Kisan Mandi, and remember, it is in Pune where the first E-Kisan Mandi was given an order, or you can say it became operational. So next one is about the FPO, the Farmer Producer Organization. The Farmer Producer Organization was in news for a lot of reasons. These FPOs, if you see, they are the legal entity formed by primary producers like farmer, milk producer, fisherman, weaver, rural artisan, and craftsman. The FPO is one type of the producer organization where members are farmers, strictly farmers, right? And also there are operational guidelines like eligibility. If you see, FPO with main farmer member size of 300 in plains and 100 in northeast and hilly areas. So this is the eligibility criteria. And the formation and promotion of FPO is based on produce cluster area, and this is nothing but a geographical area which produces almost same type of crops. And the National Project Management Agency is set up for the overall project guidance, monitoring, etc. And the implementing agencies, if you see, the SFAC, Small Farmer Agribusiness Consortium, is the implementing agency of this FPO. Okay? And along with this, the National Cooperative Development Corporation and NABARD. These also are one of the you can say implementation agency. Okay? So this is about the FPO, Farmer Producer Organization. These are nothing but bringing various farmers together and ensuring that they have a good bargaining chip in their hands. Okay? Next is some information about the SFAC. So recently the central government asked FSAC to create about 10,000 FPOs in the next 5 years. So that's why this was in news. So next one, the last topic is agri-commodity trading. So agri-commodity trading, in the first one what you have is the AgriDex. The National Commodity and Derivative Exchange NCDEX announced commencement of trading in country's first agricultural futures index called the Agri Index. This is the first agricultural future index. And if you see this NCDEX AgriDex, this is India's first return-based agricultural futures, and this is an index that tracks the performance of 10 liquid commodities, okay, both Kharif and Rabi season, and they are traded on the NCDEX platform. And 10 commodities, if you see, these are the ones: castor seed, chana, coriander, cotton seed oil, cake, the guar gum, the guar seed, jeera, mustard, the roast refined soya oil, and soya bean. So all these things come under the 10 commodities, and no group of related commodities constitute more than 40% of total weightage. Okay, so that means everything is unique. And also this AgriDex facilitates various participants, and they can hedge their risk. That means they can reduce their risk. That is one of the major thing. And it has partnered with the NSE, the National Stock Exchange, and this indicates that they will maintain and disseminate things in real time very quickly. And if you see the futures are nothing but the electronic trading, or so not electronic, but they are the trading instruments where it's a type of contract between the seller and the buyer, where both of them agree that after certain time period, the seller will sell the crops to the buyer and the buyer will buy the crop from the seller. So this will be mentioned in the future. Okay? Right. So if you see some examples of other derivative instruments, they are forward, option, swap, etc. And NCDEX, if you see, it's India's leading agricultural commodity exchange service value chain of the agricultural commodity, and it brings sellers and the buyers together on an electronic trading platform. Okay? So next one, if you see the BSE E-Agricultural Market Limited. So the Bombay Stock Exchange has launched the electronic spot platform for agricultural commodities. So remember, electronic spot platform for agricultural commodities is launched by Bombay Stock Exchange, and it is a platform where all the national and the regional trading ones are actually merged. Okay? And also it facilitates a risk-free and hassle-free purchase and sale of agricultural commodity by leveraging technology to offer a customized solutions. The farmers will now get more customized solutions, and people also can invest directly in these type of futures and other things. With the BEAM, the farmers in one state can reach markets in another state through the auction, as this is an electronic trading platform. And also the farmer can get best price for his produce not only inside the APMC mandis but also outside it, and this will reduce the chance of corruption. Okay? And about spot market, if you see, these are the places where financial instruments are exchanged for immediate delivery of commodities, currency and securities, and the commodity is sold on the stock, which is sold on the stock market for delivering to buyer. It's a fairly immediate process. Okay? And the last one what you have is the brand and logo for cotton. Recently India's premium cotton known as Kasturi cotton, it came to be known as Kasturi cotton, and India actually produces all the 4 types of cottons. The cotton is a kharif crop and it grows well in the black cotton soil, as the black soil basically has a high water retention capacity, and the annual temperature required for the growth of cotton is 20 to 28 degrees, and it has to be frost free, and the ideal rainfall is 55 to 110 centimeters. And India currently is the second largest cotton producer. It varies 1 and 2 between India and China. And India produces about 23% of the world cotton, and India is among the largest consumer, because if you see the some of the states of India, they actually are very good exporters of the clothes, of the finished products. And currently we are getting a huge competition from countries like Bangladesh, Vietnam, and other Southeast Asian countries. Okay, so India consumes a lot of cotton for the production of clothes. And the Cotton Corporation of India has developed a mobile app called Cotton Ally for providing information regarding weather condition, crop situation, and best farm practices. And the CCI is actually a public sector undertaking under the Ministry of Textile to undertake price support for the cotton. Okay? So this is all about the cotton which we need to grow. And the largest cotton producing state in India, if you see, is Gujarat, followed by Maharashtra, and the third is Telangana. Fourth, if you see, it's Rajasthan. Fifth is Madhya Pradesh. Sixth is Haryana, and seventh is Andhra Pradesh. Okay, so these are the top cotton producing states in India. So that's it, friends, for this lecture. I'll see you again with the next part. Till then, keep studying and stay tuned. Jai Hind.